Hi guys, welcome back. I hope you're really well. Today is a fun video because I'm going to be turning this beautiful tin with one of Cecily Mary Barker's flower fairies on it that I was gifted into a watercolour travel palette that I can take with me when I want something smaller and lighter and easier to carry around. Now this is something that I wanted to try for a long time. I think I saw it around on the internet years ago, but I was always just a little skeptical that it was too good to be true. It sounds very easy and convenient, doesn't it? And you can just do it at home and make whatever shape you want. Awesome. I don't trust it. But with the tin that I had now and the air dry clay that I already possessed, I thought, what better time than now to give it a go? Now, my plan going into this was to just sort of wing it and have fun and see how it turns out. So I'm just kind of smushing my clay around in here and, you know, just take this with a grain of salt. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just seeing what works best for me. So I started by just kneading the clay with my hand to get rid of any air pockets that might be there, and then I put it into my tin and smoothed it out to the edges. And now I'm using the end of my eraser to make the holes where the paint will go. And this is the end of a random paintbrush that I'm going to be using to smooth everything out. I do have really good silicone tools for this, but they're currently missing, so this will have to do. And of course I've got my water here because when I add that, it's very helpful to help smooth it all out and make it a lot prettier. And one last thing I will add is that I am aware that you're not supposed to let your air dry clay dry when it's not fully exposed to air on all edges, but it just seemed like a lot more effort to try and make it to a specific size and glue it in and seal up all the edges, so I decided to ignore that and I made it inside the tin, and I dried it inside the tin, and so far it looks like it worked fine, so that's what I did. And here it is, all finished and beautiful, and I'm setting it out in the sun to dry. So I waited a couple days until it looked like it was all dry, and then I waited a few more days after that just to be sure it was dry, and now I'm going to varnish it because this is going to get wet when I paint, and even though the air dry clay is dry now, it's not really waterproof. Now silly me thought this would take about a day to finish all the varnishing, but the tin recommended 6 hours between layers and I did 3, as well as I put some silicone along the edge just in case any water wanted to creep down the edge and wet the clay underneath that was not varnished. Now here it is, all done and all dry, and that white line around the edge is the silicone which I put between layer 2 and 3. So I put my final layer of varnish over top all of it. And I also did a little test on this piece of wood that I varnished with my paint just to see and make sure it didn't react strangely with the varnish. And it was all fine, so now it's time to add the watercolour paints. Now I have 14 colours that I could put in the palette, but I only have 10 places to fill, so 4 of them had to be left out sadly. So here I am kind of going through and deciding which ones I don't reach for very often or that I can make easily with other colours. This purple is not the most vibrant colour. Burnt sienna I can mix pretty easily with other colours. I don't reach for orange very often, and this yellow oxide I can make easily with my warm yellow and burnt umber. Although, now that I think about it as an afterthought, I think maybe I should have swapped those out. I don't know though, I'm pretty happy with the ones I ended up choosing. And now I'm just going through and deciding on the position of where the colours will be in the palette. I ended up putting kind of my cool colours on the bottom and my warm ones on the top. Although now that I think about it, I probably should have swapped the burnt umber with the green, because green is more cool and burnt umber is more warm, but yeah, it's fine. And now I'm just getting the dust off before I put my colour in. Now these are just the colours that work well for me at the moment. I tend to like all the primary colours in a warm and a cool version, and then I like Payne's Grey and Burnt Umber, and then I love turquoise and green and pink and some of those specialty colours that are a bit harder to mix. I am looking for a good purple at the moment, so if you have a recommendation, please let me know. I recently got this ultramarine violet and I do not like it. It takes so much work to get any sort of strong pigment out of it. I do find purples are hard to get pigmented watercolours, but maybe that's just my experience and I'm not looking well enough. Purple's also quite hard to mix for me, so do let me know if you know of any good ones. And here are all the beautiful colours, and now with the magic of waiting patiently for a week, they are dry and I can start painting. Now here's a little fairy that I prepared to make a demonstration with my new watercolour palette. Now, yes, it's basically the same as all my other painting videos, but this one is special because I'm using my new palette. Isn't it very beautiful? I love the creamy colour of that's just the colour of the air dry clay. I didn't paint it or anything. It just came out kind of creamy, and I love the wobbliness and the character of it, and the fact that I made it all myself, and the beautiful tin that it's in. I love that. Now for this fairy, I was quite inspired by a picture I found on the internet that reminded me of Mariposa and her big pink butterfly wings, and all the butterfly fairies there, and the butterfly fairies on Strange Magic with their butterfly wings. And I just really wanted some, big pinky purple girly fairy wings, and a fairy to match that was very elegant and flowery. And speaking of butterfly wings, did any of you ever read the Fairy Foal book when you were younger or even older now? Because that was my sister's book, the Fairy Foals, and she really loved horses and I loved fairies, and we both loved that book, and we still do. I just think it was such a lovely idea that she thought they were butterflies, but then you look up close and they were actually these little ponies with butterfly wings that all kind of were different and matched the different colours of the horses, and they had little personalities that she wrote down, and the drawings were beautiful. One of my favourite colour combinations is actually green and purple, so I really love the colours of this fairy. It was very fun to paint. Watercolours will forever be my favourite medium of painting, I believe, 100%. I could talk about this for hours, trust me, but it's a personal thing, I think. With any other kind of medium, at least wet paints, acrylic and oils mainly. Even oils, I know they take longer to dry, And yet it's still never long enough. Like I come back a week later and I'm ready to continue working on it, and I can't because they're dry. Although I do never put anything over them, that's kind of my fault. But I don't know, just the freedom of watercolours, letting them dry and it's perfectly fine and you can always reactivate them with water. I just love it, and I could talk a long time about it, but I won't. And here is the finished fairy. I think she turned out very beautifully and I had a lot of fun painting her. My sister actually loved her so much, so this fairy has gone to her, but I might make prints in the future. And as for my watercolour palette, it is so beautiful and is going to be very handy when I'm out and about painting and don't want to carry too much. I just love it so much, and I guess it feels even more special because I made it myself. And maybe I've inspired you to go off now and make your own watercolour palette. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks very much for watching. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.